Very warm welcome back to Citizen Power Breakfast. It's time for our interviewer. We'll be talking about Miraa. Unfortunately, Honourable Mr. Mauro is unable to make it. But let's get straight to it. KHAT, also known as Miraa, is a multi-million-dollar export business in which leaves and shoots of the shrub Catha edulis are chewed to obtain a mild stimulant effect. Now, predominantly grown in Meru, Miraa has been a cash crop for the region, but has been classified as a drug by the National Authority for Campaigning Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA. Miraa is illegal in the United States as well as several European countries and now in Britain. The ban will have a crippling effect on the Miraa industry and has fueled stiff resistance from several quarters. So just why have so many countries banned the substance? What effect is this going to have locally, and just what is the future of this green gold? Well, today in studio I have Florence Kajuju. She is the County MP for Meru. As we mentioned, Isaac Maura is not able to make it, but we also have Dr. Catherine Mutisya, a consultant psychiatrist, to debate the controversial issue. Good morning to you both, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and a very warm welcome to Citizen Power Breakfast.
Thank you, Michelle.
Now, we saw Britain's Home Secretary Theresa May classify Miraa as a ban, effectively closing Miraa's market in Europe, although it's not clear when exactly that ban will be effected. Now, Britain effected the ban despite the fact that the UK's Advisory Council on the misuse of drugs said that there was insufficient evidence that Miraa was in fact illegal. So I'd like to start with you, Ms. Kajuju. Could you tell us what is your position on Britain banning Miraa, and why are we seeing so many countries ban the substance?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to Citizen TV. I was shocked as well when I learned that Britain was trying to ban Miraa, because when I listened and looked at the advisory from the Advisory Council, they said that Miraa was not a drug and that it was a stimulant, and therefore they did not advise that Theresa May, who is the Home Secretary, that Miraa be banned or be declared illegal. But then she went against the advice of our own council to decide that Miraa is a drug. So really, this is a crop that has been grown and consumed, especially in Meru, where I come from, for so many years. And according to me and my practical experience, I've never had a situation where Miraa has an effect, really, that cripples a person's life. So we don't understand, and we intend, as you are aware, that I moved a motion in the National Assembly seeking to have a committee formed, another committee formed, so that we can dwell into the details and get to know exactly what's the big deal about Miraa. So that process is ongoing. We were in Meru, particularly Maili Tatu, in Igembe Central constituency, and we met the people. The committee met the Miraa growers, the people who chew Miraa, and the middlemen and the sellers of Miraa. We were on a fact-finding mission, and we are continuing with that process to be able to really get to know, because I believe that nobody has in Kenya concentrated on finding out what really is Miraa, to be able to come up with a conclusion. Even Nakanda, they have not come up with a proper conclusion on what Miraa is, whether it's a crop, and what we should do about it as a government.
Okay, so I'd like to move this over to you, Dr. Mutisya. Do you share the same view? Do you support the UK, United States, Netherlands, and several other countries who have in fact banned Miraa? And also from a medical perspective, are there harmful effects? I'm curious to hear your opinion.
Yeah, actually I would want to concentrate more on the medical issues, because first of all, to clarify, Miraa is a drug because we define a drug as any substance which, when ingested in the body, taken in the body, causes a physiological change. And we know that Miraa is a stimulant. It stimulates the brain. So Miraa is a drug, but whether it's prohibited or whether it's illegal, it's not. So it's a drug, but so far it has not been controlled and it's not prohibited. And to add on to that also, as a psychiatrist, we know there are people who, when they consume Miraa in large quantities, they can get a psychotic episode. By that I mean they could get lost touch with reality. They get hallucinations and delusions. So, but not everybody who consumes Miraa again would get psychotic episodes. And we know those who start using it early, again, are at risk. And not, again, their genetic vulnerability. So I would want to look at it more on the medical issue, because there are many other drugs which have medical side effects, but they are still legal. So for me, I would want to concentrate more on what effect it has in the brain. And
when you say that,
yeah,
that it is a drug, and you describe a drug as something which causes physiological change.
yes,
Many things, when anything you eat in your system causes physiological change. If you take tea, caffeine, does.
yes, actually caffeine is also a drug. But I'm saying there are some drugs which are controlled and others which are not.
So where is this study that was done that to find out the people who did the study and how and where?
Yeah, first of all, I've been working in Mathari Hospital for the last 10 years. And in Mathari Hospital, we've seen cases where they have Miraa-induced psychosis. And we are able to tell that because when we advise them to stop Miraa, actually some will not even need medication. They recover. But again, I've said not everybody who consumes Miraa gets a psychotic episode or gets a mental problem. And for those who use the quantities also matter. Those who use large quantities are more predisposed.
If you get a high blood pressure, they'll tell you not to take tea, not to caffeine.
Yes.
But they'll not want to say ban coffee, ban tea.
Exactly. And again, I've forgotten to also say that people who are already diagnosed to have schizophrenia and bipolar mood disorder, when they use Miraa, it becomes very difficult to control their symptoms, even though they might be on treatment.
Are there any positive things about Miraa in the body of a person? Anything good?
It's a stimulant which makes people happy. But as to whether that is good or not, it depends on for different people. Some people would want to be excited, others would not. And again, to some people, it can become extreme and interfere with their interactions and even with their work. But again, I know it is also a cash crop for some people, and it has contributed to the economy. Yes.
So from your medical perspective, long-term abuse can have significant detrimental effects. But do you see this actually having a detrimental effect on society? Does Miraa pose a danger to society?
Yeah, if we may look at the society, when you find young people who spend most of their day chewing Miraa instead of being productive, then again it affects the society. And it has also been shown in some cases it can cause liver damage.
Okay, so I'm curious to hear your view on this, because you were saying earlier that you grew up actually chewing Miraa and you have a completely different perspective. Would you agree with what she said?
I actually would challenge the doctor, with the due respect, to tell us what studies she's done. Because now you cannot just, if you've treated one case or two cases, you cannot come and say, my conclusion is that Miraa causes 1, 2, 3, 4 problems. What the government should do and the good doctors should do is to come up with statistics and tell us if the population of Meru County is 1.4 and Miraa is concentrated within the Nyambene area, and the Nyambene area assuming has a population of 500,000 people. Out of the 500,000 people, 300,000 people are sick because of Miraa. But in the absence of statistics, any doctor cannot come up with a case study and say, because I treated one person who happened to be chewing Miraa, then the conclusion is that the people who chew Miraa get sick, or they are mad, or they don't go to school. In any situation, the good doctor comes from, I think, Kitwe, and where she was born. They start harvesting in that area. We have children who harvest sad, and they don't go to school. So any activity, if it is not controlled, either by the government or maybe the county level, it is bound to cause an effect. So Miraa in itself does not cause up any problems to the Meru community. But any excessive use of anything, even if it's coffee, even if it's tea, even if it's beer, it is bound to cause a problem. And that is why we are saying we cannot have the government having hands off. Let us have a report in the House, then the government to come up and tell us this is the way to go. Because in my study, I want to recommend to the committee, as a personal opinion and from my research, that let us have Miraa declared as a cash crop. As we speak, there is an act called the Crops Act, Act number 16 of 2013. It is still not yet commenced in terms of operation. It is falls under the Ministry of Agriculture. We are going to have the Cabinet Secretary on Agriculture come to us and tell us what is his position in as far as Miraa is concerned. Because we have scheduled crops in that act, in the Crops Act. The scheduled crops in that act are like coffee, tea, wheat, sugarcane, millet, and stuff like that, these kind of cash crops. Now we are asking the Cabinet Secretary, what is your position in as far as Miraa is concerned? If we have Miraa declared as a scheduled crop, then the government will come in and control its planting, its sale and consumption, which means, therefore, maybe children who are said not to be going to school because of Miraa are able to go to school because the government is going to enforce the Children's Act. So really, it's a non-issue that is being made an issue, because whatever, if it's coffee that is consumed in excess, it causes that some change in the body. So even Miraa would also, you would tend to behave in that manner. But if we come in as a government and control Miraa, then there wouldn't be a big deal about Miraa.
But the issue here is that the UK, the US, the Netherlands, several countries have banned it. So I'd like to discuss why these countries have actually banned it. What is your view on why they've taken a position to outlaw it as an illegal drug?
Yes, you know, the point is this. If you go to Netherlands, you'll find that they sell bangi.
Yeah.
In the cafes. It's legal.
Yeah.
In Kenya, when you're found in possession of bangi, you'll be charged and actually heavily fined or even put to jail because you're in possession of bangi, or maybe you're using bangi, isn't it? Now, when you come to the UK, in Britain, you'll find the advisory council said Miraa is a stimulant, it's not a drug. And then they went ahead, the Home Secretary went ahead and banned it. The other day I watched the British High Commissioner. He was in this studio, Mr. Turner, and he said he didn't want actually to discuss the issue of Miraa. He said it is an ongoing discussion, so he will not comment about it. If these people are convinced in their minds that Miraa is a drug, why wouldn't they come out clearly and tell us what scientific research they've found, so that now we are able to get convinced, even ourselves, as the consumers and the producers of Miraa, that this is a crop that we have to deal with. We can't just condemn a crop that has been there for ages. Our grandparents and great-grandparents have consumed it, and now today decide that it's a drug, and that's it. There must be some evidence to show.
But it's not just social and health problems for the reason that they're banning it. In the UK, there's fears that the UK will become a regional hub for smuggling Miraa into Europe because it's been banned, particularly smuggling it to the Netherlands. There's also fears that it's suspected to fund terrorist and Islamic extremist activities. What is your views to those being the reasons behind the ban?
It is shocking when you're told that the money that maybe they get from Miraa could be used to fund terrorist activities, because I think it is a way of pushing situations too far. Because what I read from the papers as the discussion of the Home Secretary, she did not exactly come out to say that Miraa is the money that they get from Miraa could be used for purposes of funding activities. Really, we need to be told, because everybody is expected to have details of any allegation so that we are able to know the way forward. But without that, then it is a blanket condemnation that really cannot be accepted.
Yes. In fact, first of all, I would want to clarify that there are studies which are documented, and they have shown that in certain vulnerable people. And even if I looked at that report,
Certain
they
vulnerable
used,
people.
yes, and they said
Not the
there
general
are other
population.
determinants. There are other determinants.
Not the general population.
Yes, but those few people, even if it was 1%, they are part of the community.
Yes.
And again, Miraa is not just consumed in Meru, it's consumed all over. In fact, in Nairobi, there's so much consumption. Even in Kitui, where I come from, there's a lot of Miraa consumption. So it's not true to say that there are no scientific studies which have shown that there are certain vulnerable people, when they chew Miraa in large quantities, they can get a psychotic episode, they can get a manic episode. And again, we also know that for NACADA to have come up with these findings, studies do not necessarily need to have been done in Meru, because again, maybe people in Meru are too busy working in the farms, and they might not be consuming as much as other places they might be consuming.
So what statistics do you have to sort of validate your perspective that it is really harmful, especially considering that the Advisory Council in the UK said that there wasn't sufficient evidence that it is actually a harmful drug?
Yeah, the report said that there are other determinants which might influence whether somebody gets harmful effects from Miraa, which could include at the time you start using, whether you start at an early age, and again, whether you're predisposed. Again, I've said for the people we've diagnosed to have schizophrenia and to have manic episodes, bipolar mood disorder, when they use KHAT, then it becomes very difficult to control their symptoms, and the relapses are very many. So we are not saying everybody who uses Miraa gets affected, but again, we are saying there are people who use Miraa and get harmful effects. And Mheshimiwa had said they'll invite us to come and present our documentary evidence, which we will when they invite us. So we are not condemning it and saying you chew Miraa today, regardless of the quantities, that you will get a mental problem. But there are cases where when they chew Miraa, it predisposes them, it makes them have some mental disorders.
Okay, I'd like to sample, if you don't mind me, sample some of the views which are coming in from our viewers. We asked them if they think that Miraa should be banned. So let's have a look what some people are saying. Nuki Ochieno, he says, from Kisumu County, Miraa should not be banned. If cigarettes companies should also be closed, I'm ready to mobilize 20 million Kenyans against this. So that's just one of the views. And somebody saying yes, because it is a drug and harmful to our health. So these are some of the views coming in. Keep them coming in and we will sample them. But next, I just want to get your perspective on what the effect of this ban will be locally, especially considering that this is a cash crop, an industry which is worth 62.2 million shillings annually. What effect is this going to have?
It is going to be a serious economic effect. And because if you visit Nyambene, that is, and I'm not saying that Miraa is just grown in Meru, because in my committee, we have members who come from Pokot. The vice chair of my committee comes from Pokot, and he tells me that they grow Miraa in Pokot. We have members of that committee, in fact, a county woman rep from Machakos, she was telling me that in Chulu Hills, they grow Miraa. So Miraa is grown countrywide in Kenya.
Is there a difference between Miraa and Muguka?
There is a difference, because the shrub, the twig of in Miraa that we get from Meru, there are different types. There's Kiza, there's Kangeta, and several other types. But Muguka it's in its own class. And in fact, we want to get the difference from the experts when the time comes for them to appear before our committee. As a matter of fact, we'll be visiting Bere. We visited Meru. We'll be visiting Bere in the course of the August during the recess of the National Assembly. So there are different types. But what I'm saying is that economically, that is the mainstay. Miraa is the mainstay of Meru. So if the government of Kenya was to say today that Miraa should be banned, it means the lifeline of the Meru community will have been disconnected, and the Meru people will not be able to survive without the Miraa crop, because that is what they grow, that is what they sell, that is what they use to educate their children, that's what they use to buy food, to build, and to do business. So, and it has been bringing money in Meru and in the country as a republic, and especially from the exports that they've been taking to the UK, to Somalia, and to other areas. And much more importantly, you find Miraa is grown in Yemen. Miraa is grown in Somalia. Miraa is grown in Ethiopia. So I don't know what is the big issue about Miraa that specifically comes from Kenya. And those are some of the things we really want to know. But in terms of economics, it brings a lot of money to the country.
We've got a view here coming in from one of our viewers, Anne Kariuki from Thika. She says, well, farmers should just start to farm alternative crops, which will also boost their livelihood in a legal way. If in the next few years there will be, what if in the next few years there will be no market? This is a waste of time and energy. So what do you say to people who just say, why not shift to start rearing other farming activities that are legal, that can be equally as lucrative?
First of all, Miraa is not illegal. Because by saying that we should start farming other crops that are legal, it is a declaration that Miraa is illegal. Miraa is not illegal. And we are not opposed as a community on growing alternative crops. But then for farmers to shift from Miraa, there must be a reason as to why Miraa has been declared that it cannot be grown in Meru or any other part of the country. Let us get to know, because you can't just go today and tell farmers. And when we went there with my committee, you'd find trees, the Miraa trees that have been there for 50 years and more years. So let us get to know as a matter of fact, from a research that has been conducted, what is the position of Miraa as a crop. Let us get to know whether it is a declaration that Miraa is a drug. Let us get to know as a community, because in the Meru community, a young man cannot get married without giving Miraa. It is the first expression of interest in a girl. Before you give out Miraa, you cannot be given a girl. In church, we take Miraa as part of our tithe, and the bishops and the pastors receive Miraa as a gift to the church. Any celebration that is conducted in Meru, when we are conducting circumcision rites, what is partaken is Miraa. So if you tell this community today that stop growing Miraa and shift, you are killing a whole community. And if Miraa was bad, the first persons to have banned Miraa would have been our Jorincheke elders. Mr. Mutegi here knows about Jorincheke. I believe he's also a Jorincheke elder. Those elders are the ones who guide the community on what should not be consumed by the people and should be consumed. So we've been with the elders all the years, all the lives of the Meru people. They have never banned Miraa. So I'm not saying that another crop cannot grow in Meru, but we cannot just wake up one day and start growing a crop without getting to know what has gone wrong with our Miraa. And that is why we have a committee in government and in parliament to be able to take us through that process.
And from a medical aspect, I would actually advocate for regulations on sale and consumption of Miraa, because like we know, like cigarettes, it's clearly marked that it's harmful to your health and that it should not be sold to under-18s. So we definitely need certain regulations and control over Miraa, as much as it's not illegal, because we need to make sure that young people are not being involved in the sale and consumption of Miraa. And we also need to sensitize the public that yes, you can consume Miraa the way people would consume cigarettes and alcohol, but you must be aware that it can cause certain harmful effects. So far, none of that is done. Even the bundles of Miraa, there is no label into it. Nobody is taught that it's harmful. Even for people who are growing it, they might not know. So I would definitely advocate for some control and some regulation.
Would you agree with?
Yes. The reason why we are asking if Miraa can fit into the Crops Act is so that the government can come in to regulate the industry. Because now I believe the government has a duty under the Constitution to guide the community that grows or consumes Miraa. If we were able to move to that through that process, and the committee is of the opinion that Miraa should be regulated by the government, then nothing stops us from having Miraa maybe in the Crops Act or even in any other act that would now bring in the government so that it is able to guide the people in terms of the growth and in consumption and in marketing. So that at the end of the day, if we have that warning, as the doctor is talking about, a warning on we have on cigarettes, we have on beer, we control the consumption so that young people don't partake of Miraa. We warn people so that if there is a problem, this is the position.
But even traditionally, do young people in Meru consume?
Actually, they don't. They don't. Young people do not.
They do not.
Because then the elders are there to keep watch of the community.
They might not be consuming, young people might not be consuming Miraa in Meru, and I certainly would want to do a study to establish that. But we know there are many young people using Miraa. So we can't just say that Miraa in Meru is not consumed by young people, when we know very well in Nairobi, in Kitui, in Northeastern, there are many young people who spend a lot of time chewing Miraa instead of engaging in productive activities.
But then the interesting thing...
But is it only Miraa that people do? If you go to, in every village, in every township in Kenya, you'll find a lot of young people because of unemployment, not necessarily chewing Miraa.
And that's what I'm saying.
But playing ajua, just laying about. If you talk about young people not working, doing productive work, or engaging in Miraa business, go to Kiambu. How many young people, children, who don't go to school because they are picking tea, picking coffee? Surely you cannot
certainly,
say...
that's what we are saying.
Yeah.
As much as we know alcohol is still legal in Kenya, and you're saying Miraa is used to pay dowry, even alcohol is used to pay dowry in some places, that doesn't mean that we should not tell the public that in some cases alcohol can be harmful to you. We know cigarette is harmful to your health, and that's why there are labels. It should not be advertised, and you should not sell cigarettes to people of under 18 years. So we certainly need to do that. So we can't just keep quiet and say it doesn't harm the people of Meru, and therefore we should not control it and we should not regulate it. We certainly need to regulate it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to just briefly discuss what the future is. Ms. Kajuju, you mentioned that you're tabling a bill in Parliament to form a committee to really investigate and review Miraa as an industry. So we're also seeing farmers and politicians petition the UK government, and a court order forcing the National Authority and Campaigning Against Drug and Alcohol to stop calling it a drug. So, I mean, how likely are these actions to achieve any progressive results?
We are positive, and actually what we are looking for is a report. We want to, at the end of the 90-day period of the committee, we'll table a report. That report is going to guide the next move that we shall take, because the committee will make it study and decide whether to recommend that Miraa is a drug or it's not a drug, because I don't know what the committee will say, but it will be based on the research that we conduct. Based on that, then, we'll be able to know what step to take. I'm aware that there is a case in court filed by one of the members of the Meru community against Nakanda. I'll leave that to the court to make its own decision. But for us, we want now, once we table that report, it will guide us on what to advise the growers of Miraa on the next step to take. But this committee is going also to travel. We are seeking the permission of the Speaker and the National Assembly to be able to travel to the Netherlands, to be able to travel to the UK, to travel to Canada, and even Tanzania. You know, Tanzania, if you found chewing Miraa or in possession of Miraa, you can be convicted and sentenced to serve a term of not less than 20 years. So we need to visit our neighbors as well. I'm the chairperson of regional integration within the East African community. I would like to know, because some of the things we talk about is common market. Why does Tanzania, out of the 5 partner states within the East African community, why has it decided to ban Miraa? So these are some of the things we are going to look at. It's not nothing is in isolation. And whatever report that we make as a committee, we will be bound by that, and we will go back to the Meru community as politicians and tell them this is the position. But we must also engage the government, because you realize that whenever we have campaigns, all the presidential candidates were in Meru, saying the way they are going to support Miraa, the way they are going to secure markets for the sale of Miraa. They even chewed Miraa together with us. So what is their position now that elections are over? So these are the things that we need to know, so that now we are able to come up with a comprehensive report and guide the community.
I would like Mheshimiwa to assure the public that this matter has some technical component to it, that the committee discussing this matter, it's going to bring in some technical people, and so that you assure the public that you're not just going to sit and say, because it is a source of livelihood, that we just discuss it and don't involve the technical people. And by the time you present the report to us, the public would want to know what research have you done, what technical teams have you involved. So I would want you to assure the public that you are certainly going to do that.
I'll be calling you, Doctor. Today, as a matter of fact, Mr. Mutegi, today we are meeting 2 doctors. We are meeting a doctor from Karatina University, Dr. Murungi. There is a doctor from KHAT University that we've asked to appear before the committee. And this is a process that we've just started. We have told you that we are going to summon the Cabinet Secretary in charge of agriculture. We are going to summon the Cabinet Secretary in charge of health. We are going to summon the Cabinet Secretary in charge of labor because of the issues Dr. has raised in terms of child labor. We want to know what statistics they have on the children who are from Miraa growing areas, not necessarily in Meru, and get to know whether there's child labor or not, and what the minister intends to do about it. So I assure you, Doctor, I assure the public, the committee is going to do a comprehensive business in ensuring that the report that we table before the House is going to be discussed in its entirety, and it has to have all the disciplines in as far as health and labor and any other issue affecting the growth of Miraa is concerned.
So it will be a holistic debate. As we are running out of time, if we could just have some closing remarks from each of you, and Mutegi, if you have anything to add to the
I
debate
just wanted
as well.
to ask you, was it not that Britain banned Miraa the other day? Or would it have been an issue?
Yes, it was an issue. During my campaigns, Mr. Mutegi, that was in last year, and till the date that we did our elections, because Netherlands had banned Miraa. And the issue that the people were speaking to me about, they were telling me that Netherlands is a market that they really want to sell their Miraa. And I was assuring them, within the first 100 days of my being in Parliament, once they elected me, was to ensure that at the end of the day we get a government position on Miraa. Whether it was a matter of amending the existing laws, whether it was a matter of bringing a bill to the House that will regulate Miraa, that I assured them. Little did I know that within my 100 days in Parliament, the government of UK will have banned Miraa. So this is a process that I started during my campaigns. It is now that the UK has banned Miraa. I intend to continue with the fight for Miraa until I get to know what exactly is the position in as far as Miraa is concerned.
All right, unfortunately, we're just going to take a short break. We've got news next, but we'll be back and get straight into the debate, continuing where we've left off. So thank you, and we'll continue this just after the news. So stay with us, stay with Citizen Power Breakfast.